What's up, everybody? How y'all doing? This is Shabazz with the proper perspective. How y'all doing tonight? Hope everybody is getting along. Thank you for joining in. I got a pinned comment in the chat section, so appreciate if you leave a comment there, like, share, and subscribe. Let me start with that first. What are we talking about tonight? We're talking about reparations. We're talking about black MAGA. We're talking about black Republicans, black conservatives, social media influencers. We're talking about it all. I'm gonna give it a couple of minutes. Make sure these all of these, what do you call them? Notifications go out before I get the show started. As usual, I'm coming to you live on YouTube. I'm coming to you live on Facebook. I'm supposed to be coming live to you on TikTok and Instagram too, but my phones aren't around, so I tried to hit the buttons and then get back over here. May not necessarily be working, but we gonna give it a minute. Usually I start out playing the. Let me see. Share my screen. Play my theme, and then get into some things.
Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection, and whose mouth is mumbling, trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection, and whose mouth is mumbling, trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. Break it down with the proper perspective. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection, and whose mouth is mumbling, trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection, and whose mouth is mumbling, trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. Break it down with the proper perspective.
Okay, everybody, how y'all doing tonight? So you have heard the theme song, and now I'm back at you on the main screen. What's going on, everybody? Hopefully we'll get some people to join in, to tune in, take a listen. I'm trying to make sure everything is right. You know, I got to do my checks. Okay, so that's correct. The microphone is live and direct. So we good there. So, what are we talking about tonight, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, family? How y'all doing? Let me pull up my whole thing. So, Black MAGA, the GOP, and reparations. That's what we talk about tonight. Black MAGA, the GOP, and reparations. Here's what I want to know. Where's the smoke? Where's the shade? Everybody has smoke and shade for Kamala Harris. Everybody still got smoke and shade for Joe Biden and Barack Obama. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they didn't deserve any shade. I'm not saying they didn't deserve any shade. But what I'm saying is everybody that got on their platforms, especially you millionaire platforms. I don't necessarily mean millionaire by money. I'm talking the platforms that got millions of followers. I'm talking the platforms that's got millions of subscribers on YouTube, and you got another million on TikTok, and you got another million on Instagram. That's what I'm talking about. All of those people that was telling us, don't vote Democrat, don't vote Kamala, don't vote Joe Biden, don't praise Obama. That's what I'm talking about. That's who I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people that had all of that smoke They told us that if a Democrat starts talking about reparations, don't believe them. Okay, we shouldn't believe the Democrat if they start talking about reparations. Well, who do we believe then? They told us don't support a Democrat just because they talk about reparations. They ain't gonna really give it to you. Okay, so then who do we support? I didn't hear them say support an independent party candidate. Wonder why not? So again, that's the smoke we talking about, and I'm trying to get everything situated and set up. So as I said, I am coming to you live. I'm coming to you live on Instagram. I'm coming to you live on youtube.com/@theproperperspective. Now, as you know, I usually take a couple of minutes to warm up, and I'm trying to give everybody a minute or a second because the software is working in such a way where it's got to put those notifications out and give people some time in order to join in. So I also say like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell for notifications. Leave a comment. If you're tuning in from a place that I don't know about, please let me know where y'all tuning in from. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if you in Virginia like me, or if you in New York, or if you in Texas. I don't know if you in Mali, if you in Ghana. Let me know. Drop a comment and say, yo, I'm checking you out and I live in such and such. That's what I'm asking. Give a shout out to Country Girl on Instagram that joined. I appreciate your presence. What's up? How you doing? I would love it if you came on over to youtube.com/@theproperperspective, because that's where I get all my bells and whistles. I will be sharing the screen. I will be sharing some extra videos so that you can really get a good feel for what's popping off and what's going on and what we're talking about. It's best to come on over to youtube.com/@theproperperspective. But if you not gonna, navigate on over, then that's cool. That's why I'm keeping the secondary screens, the phones, and everything all live. So what's going on? Country Girl is shouting out from Maryland, and we go back a little bit, so I know what's going on with that. I know what's popping. Peace to you. So again, if you're coming in on youtube.com/@theproperperspective, then feel free to join the chat. I will put a link in a little bit later down. So if you want to voice your opinion and tell me I'm right or wrong, tell me I'm accurate or crazy, then that's fine as well. But let's see, what are we talking about? Like I said, we're talking about Black MAGA, the GOP, reparations. I want to know where all the smoke is. So as we get this show started and on the road, for my introduction, let me just say this. Black conservatives. Because, if I call them Black Republicans, they're going to say, oh, no, brother, I ain't no Republican. I'm just conservative. I'm talking about you too. Black Republicans, Black conservatives, Black MAGA, whatever it is that you want to call yourself. I'm not saying that I ain't got no smoke whatsoever for the Democrats, because I do. But I'm putting my focus tonight on all of those people that told us and that keep telling us, don't listen to a Democrat. Now, because it's Black History Month, happy Black History Month, I'm going to start the show off with a little bit of a shout out, giving some respect, paying some reverence to either an African elder or an African ancestor. And tonight I'm giving the shout out to an African elder, Dr. Joy DeGree. Now, if I messed up her name, please forgive me. It might be Joy DeGrue, but I think it's Joy DeGree. But she wrote the influential, powerful book, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. Now, if you've read this book, if you've heard of this book, say something about it. Let me know what you thought about that book. Have you read it? Have you heard of it? Have you heard of her? Have you seen her videos? Have you read her text? That's what I would like to know. But that is a person that is highly intelligent, very well informed, And she's done all kinds of research on this subject, or the subject of what we're supposed to be doing. Why are we over here? Why are we in the situations that we find ourselves in? Post-traumatic slave syndrome is the title, and that is something you really need to know. I will quote a couple of things from her text later on. But if you are familiar with me, then you also know, especially because it's Black History Month, I also pay respect and give reference to from whence we came. So we are an African people, whether you like it or not. We descend from the West Africans that were kidnapped, Central and West Africans that were kidnapped and brought over here on those European ships. One of which was entitled, one of which was called the Jesus. So Jesus brought us over here. But I ain't trying to go there. I know some of y'all getting y'all feelings about that. But so the Akon people of Ghana, that's who I'm giving or attributing and dropping some knowledge on, grabbing some wisdom from. So tonight I give a shout out to the Akon people because they are us and we are them. Quite a few of us descend from the Akon people. Now, if you fly on down to Jamaica, even more of them descend from the Akon people. But Akon was up here in Virginia and in Texas and in Alabama and in North Carolina just as well. Now, the Akon people of Ghana, they have a proverb, a little jewel piece of wisdom that says, and you might not like this, but hey, it is what it is. It says, excuse me, the slave who loves his chains will never seek freedom. The slave who loves his chains will never seek freedom. And I gotta say, sometimes it really does seem like while we are no longer in chains, we are not really trying to seek this freedom. Now, maybe there's a difference between freedom and liberation, and maybe we choose, maybe we rather have the freedom and we don't want the liberation. If you look at it, if you think about it, like, well, liberation, that's a bigger struggle. All right, maybe we good. But if we good, we wouldn't be struggling, we wouldn't be fighting, we wouldn't be clamoring, we wouldn't still be talking about certain things. We wouldn't be talking about reparations if we was good, if we was really free, if we was treated correctly and appropriately, then this wouldn't be a topic. So in my mind, the proverb fits. The slave who loves his chains will never seek freedom. This proverb exposes a harsh reality. There are those among us who, rather than break free, would choose to embrace their oppression and even defend their oppressors. Now, I know y'all heard that quote about Harriet Tubman. It's a lot of us that Harriet would have shot. You know, back then, all that, you know, the biggest and the baddest that you could have was a shotgun. Let her come on up to the modern times and she'll have an M16. It's a whole lot of people that would be getting shot. Especially the people that try to tell you, don't support reparations. Now, if you honestly don't believe in reparations, if you honestly don't believe that, you don't believe in the concept, you don't believe in the idea, you don't believe we deserve it, okay, I'll put you over here in a little pocket somewhere. But if you believe in it, and I'm saying that because there are people who propose or people who act like they believe in it. And so they get this attention from us. They grab our attention. We hit the like button on their posts. We join up on their Facebook groups. We subscribe to their YouTube channels. We even download their apps and pay them $5 a month. Because we support what they say when they say they support the idea of reparations. And they're going to show you how to get them. And then anytime somebody starts talking about reparations, they say, I don't believe them. So we're going to talk tonight. So like I said, I keep hearing the same thing from certain Black Republicans, from certain Black MAGA influencers. And if you see the thumbnail that I use tonight, shout out to that thumbnail. If you see that thumbnail that I'm using, you can see who I'm talking about. I'm not necessarily supposed to name names. I had some people, the old earth called me and said, Don't use those names. Don't be calling about people's names. You're going to get in trouble. So I'm trying not to do that. But if you see my thumbnail, you see who I'm talking about. More than likely, the name's going to come on my mouth before I'm over tonight anyhow. So, but you know, you hear all these black Republicans and MAGA social media influencers and conservative YouTubers. Oh, I'm not a Republican. I'm just conservative. Okay. And they tell us, don't trust the Democrats. They said, don't trust Kamala. Ayanna Presley came out and reintroduced HR 40. They said, I ain't going to fall for that grift. Yeah, let's go support the Republicans that's got a what? What is theirs called? Jamal Bowman introduced a resolution in reference to reparations. They said, I don't believe it. They don't want to believe nothing. But they won't say, hey, Trump, where's ours? They won't say, hey, JD Vance, when you working on that platinum plan? We'll wait, but come on, talk to me. Nah, they won't say that. All they'll say is, don't believe a Democrat. Try to get this screen right. It's going to fall again. Again, if you're just tuning in, youtube.com/@theproperperspective. Like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. So they want to tell us don't trust the Democrats. They don't want us to trust the black ones or the white ones. Okay, so let's say we hear you loud and clear and we're not going to trust the Democrats. But we still want reparations, right? We still want reparations. We still asking for it. We still demanding it. We still fighting for it some kind of way. I'm not too sure how. Because if you're not going to get online with the people that's introducing legislation, but you are going to say you want it, I don't necessarily know how you're going to get it. It ain't falling out the sky. We all know money don't grow on trees. Literally. Technically. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip the script. So my question to all of the smokeless speakers, whether you are a registered Republican or a leader of your own right, if your claim to fame is, we are FBA, if your claim to fame is, we are really ADOS, even if your claim to fame is, we the real Indians, I want to know what you're going to do for legislation. I want to know what you're going to do for legislation. You telling us don't get in, don't listen to the Democrats. I got no problem throwing the Democrats under the bus. They have thrown us under the bus, especially the white ones and some of the black ones, particularly the older generation. I got a little bit of leeway and I'm giving some grace and some space to the younger ones because some of them just got here a couple of years ago. So I can't be mad that a congresswoman who's been in office for 2 years ain't had nothing to do with why the reparations bill didn't pass 10 years ago and 5 years ago and 3 years ago. That doesn't make any sense. But these social media influencers, these YouTubers, yes, I'm a YouTuber, but I ain't blowing smoke up your Yahoo. I'm telling you the truth. You can't castigate somebody for a problem that they were not even in place to fix. And you can't say they're not trying because the newest ones are the ones introducing the bill. Now, you can have critiques of, you can criticize the bill, but if you criticize the bill, then that's what you do. You criticize the bill. You don't criticize the person. You can shout out the person. You can holler at the person. You can scream at the person and say, no, fix the bill. But that ain't what these social media people is doing. They saying, don't listen at all to them. Well, who else you going to listen to? That's my question. If you're not going to listen to them, who else you going to listen to? Last time I checked, Trump was handing out pardons like Costco samples. But ain't nobody in Black MAGA had the guts to slide on over beside him and say, sign this reparations executive order. Don't tell me he couldn't do it. He showed you he could do it. He signed like 50 something or 60 something on the first day. Don't tell me he ain't been in office long enough. They done shut down whole agencies. He ain't said nothing about that platinum plan y'all told us about. He had that big fat Sharpie out in his hand just squibbling. Nobody said nothing. But as soon as the Democrats step up and say we're going to reintroduce the HR 40 bill, here y'all come. No. Don't listen to him. Okay. Well, why don't you go over there and scream at Trump? Go tell Elon Musk. Go knock on his door. Go knock on JD Vance's door. Or if you happen to be in an area where there's a Black Republican as a representative, I don't think you are. Not if you're listening to my show. But if you happen to have your influence out, if you happen to be attached to some of those Black Republicans that's in office, I could be wrong, but I think the last time I checked, the only ones that is in office are ones that are not representative of any Black communities. But if I'm wrong, okay, I can take that back. But where they at? I know where they at. Tim Scott said, we don't live in a racist country. He ain't gonna write no reparations bill. He believe the country is fixed. Everything is great and gravy. So y'all were right there clapping and cheesing at the White House events. Ain't none of you slip up, ain't none of you slide or cut the check memo under Trump's Big Mac. None of you. Nobody wanted to do that. Nobody had the guts to do that. Nobody had the testicular fortitude, as the Minister Farrakhan liked to say. Make this make sense, please. Just make it make sense. Shout out to someone else that has joined the stream on Instagram. Young CVS just joined. Shout out to you. Appreciate your presence. If you come over to youtube.com/@theproperperspective, then you get to see the full scope. I'm going to be sharing the screen, and some things I'm sure you're not going to be able to hear, or at least not hear as well, because I'm only on Instagram through the phone. I don't got all that extra software where it just does all this multi-streaming. I ain't on that level just yet. So like I said, last time I checked, Trump was handing out pardons like Costco samples, and y'all ain't fight to get nothing. If you claim Trump is the best thing for Black America, at least that's how you acted. If you claiming Trump was the best thing for Black America since hot combs and HBCU homecomings, then why are you not pressuring to get some of that real reparations money done? If Democrats' reparations plan is so fake, where's the Republicans with the real one? That's what I want to know. I was about to share my screen, but it's gone. See if I can get this to pull up. Probably not going to pull up just yet, but we'll see. Okay, so it's not going to pull up. I'm not sharing the screen just yet. So again, if you're just tuning in, like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. This is Shabazz with The Proper Perspective. If you're coming on over to YouTube, then it's youtube.com/@theproperperspective. That's the @ sign, not AT. As I move on, as I proceed, I was going to share this screen, but that's not actually going to work. So I'm going to pass on that. Now, so as we move on, so you're for cutting government spending, right? That's the next thing I want to talk about. Everybody's jumping up and down. You know, if you're anti-Trump, then you mad as hell about Doge. Devils often grabbing everything. And you should be, rightfully so. But if you're pro-Trump, like all those blacks for Trump, all those Latinos for Trump, all those Arabs for Trump, and clearly all those white folk for Trump. You know, some people have been making a bit of a stir about the FAFO, F around and find out phase of the election cycle, because a lot of those people are at least coming online and making videos. I don't know if I trust those videos, but they're coming online making those videos saying, "Oh my God, I didn't know, I didn't realize. How come nobody told me?" I ain't got time for that mess. You had plenty of opportunity. So as far as I'm concerned, you voted for Trump. This is what he said he was going to do. You should be good. My point is, since you should be good, then you should be congratulating and clapping for all of this government shutdown stuff that's going on, right? Follow me with this now. So the conservatives, the Republicans, the MAGAs, the birthers, all of y'all. Now we get into the money now. Now let's talk about the money. Y'all love screaming for budget cuts like cheerleaders at a pep rally, but only when it's a GOP pep rally. Yeah, shut it down. Get rid of DEI. Cut welfare. Stop giving foreign aid. Y'all sound like y'all got drafted into the Republican Hunger Games. But if that's your team, that's your team. Okay, cool. You know, a lot of people say, well, black people are not a monolith. This is true. We're not a monolith. Maybe we should be, but right now we're not a monolith. So I'm not necessarily mad at a black Republican or black conservative. Y'all should be good. You like all of this government shutdown and saving of the money and spending less. You should be okay with that. I got a question for you though. If you're gonna roll with all of this Doge activity, that's really illegal, but that's another story. If you're gonna roll with all this Doge activity and you're a black person on any scale of the political right, why aren't y'all asking anything about reparations when it comes to all of this money they spending? You know, a lot for a long time they always said, well, we'd never be able to give reparations. The cost is just so much. It's astronomical, and it would bankrupt the government. That's what they say. Well, if you have the Department of Government Efficiency, and y'all are legitimately only closing down agencies under the behest of saving money, and y'all say y'all saving a lot of money. So if you're cutting all this government spending, why can't you take that money and put it towards reparations? Better yet, why aren't black MAGA conservative social media influencers asking the Republican Party to take some of that Doge enacted money that they saved and put it towards reparations? Why aren't they demanding Trump sign an executive order? Why aren't they demanding the Republicans present a bill in the Senate or in Congress? Y'all love to say, I'll tell you why. Y'all love to say, we don't need government handouts. But the second Trump cuts a tax for a billionaire, y'all throw confetti like y'all got stock in Amazon. And then as soon as somebody said, well, we need to boycott, we don't need to boycott. I don't know if this is cognitive dissonance or political stupidity, because you keep going back to, I want reparations. And yet you keep telling us to side with the people that don't want to give us reparations. So what's the catch? What's the real grift? That's my question. Who's really grifting? Now, so let me get this straight. Tax breaks for the ultra rich, good. Billions go to Ukraine. You okay with it? But when it comes to paying reparations to descendants of enslaved people who built the country's economy, suddenly the budget's looking real tight, bro. The calculator ain't calculating. Y'all turn into idiots and mathematical dullards. We don't know how we would do it. It's impossible to do. The amount of money they kicked out of that federal bank, out of the budget for COVID, they pulled money out of nowhere for COVID. And that was under Trump. So all you black Republicans, all you black conservatives, where you at? Why you hiding? Nah, we ain't gonna let this go. We ain't letting you off the hook with that. If you support shutting down these woke programs, then you should be pushing for all of that money that they save from shutting down these woke programs to be redirected to the people who deserve it. The FBA, the ADOS. And I'm using that in quotes because I personally don't like the labels. But I'm not going to fight and argue with people. Kujichagulia says we all got the right to self-define. So if you want to label yourself as an FBA, then okay, cool. I'm going to run with that, bro. FBA, peace. ADOS, peace. Reparations, where you at? That's what I want to know. You can call yourself whatever you want. You can make up a lot of mess. The pretendians think they the real Cherokees. Okay, cool. But go knock on Trump's door. That's the thing. Y'all want to dress up as fiscal conservatives, but then you keep quiet when it's time to allocate funds to your own people. Now, it's bad enough that that's what white politicians do. And yeah, white politicians in the Republican Party and the Democrat Party do that. But again, we can move the Democrats. We can force them into something if we ask for it, if we demand it. We haven't demanded it. We've asked, and then we sit back patiently waiting for them to do the right thing. That ain't how it's done. You got to demand it. You got to demand it. This is the time. Like I said, Ayanna Pressley just reintroduced the bill. Now, get this straight. Just because the bill is introduced doesn't mean the job is done. Now, she knows this. I don't know if all of us know this. I don't know that all of us know that the only reason the bill has to be reintroduced every time is because the Republicans keep voting it down. All these bills, they don't just automatically go to the floor when somebody introduces it. They go to a committee. The committee has to vote yes, that it goes to the floor. The committee's always been overrun, dominated by Republicans. They always say, yeah, we're not going to vote on this one. This one don't go nowhere. So again, all these black conservatives that tell you be mad at the Democrats, they're not telling you to be mad at the Republicans for not allowing the bill to come to the floor. Why is that? The grift. Clay Cane calls it the grift. So what I'm going to say is we must confront the reality that healing requires honesty. We must confront the reality that healing requires honesty. Denial only prolongs the pain. We cannot heal what we are unwilling to face. Now, to some of you, that might sound familiar. To some of you, that might sound familiar. It would be great if it sounds familiar. That ain't me. That's not me talking. I'm quoting Dr. Joyce DeGruy from post-traumatic slave syndrome. And this quote speaks to the unwillingness of some to fully face the need for reparations as a form of healing. Now, this is not just something that would be directed towards the white people that don't believe it's needed, but this is also directed towards the black people who A, don't believe it's needed, or B, they say they believe it's needed, they say that they support it, but then they do everything to not support it. They're not being honest. All they're doing is trying to get you riled up so they can get more clicks. Now, I get it. We live in a YouTube world, and YouTube is paying big money. And apparently, it's way lot more money in saying, don't believe in nothing, don't believe in anything, don't support anything that's going to help you. That's what all these FAFO Republicans are finding out. But Dr. Joyce Degree's quote, we must confront the reality that healing requires honesty. Denial only prolongs the pain. We cannot heal what we are unwilling to face. This also speaks to those who spit half truths and only deal with one side of the problem, as if the Democrats are the only ones that's the problem. Right now, the Republicans run it all. They'll tell you, don't believe in the Democrats because for 2 years, Obama had control of the House, but he didn't have control of the Supreme Court. And he didn't have control of the subcommittees that put things onto the floor. They say the same thing about Biden. For 2 years of his presidency, he had the whole House, but he didn't have the Supreme Court and he didn't have the subcommittees. Well, now the Republicans got the Senate, they got Congress, they got the White House itself, they got the Supreme Court, and they got all the subcommittees, and they got Elon Musk and Doge. So why aren't we yelling and screaming every day about reparations? Trump said, vote for me. What have you got to lose? We ain't got nothing to lose. Okay, so now it's time to put up or shut up. Where they at? Where they at? Where they at? The Republicans have full power now. It's on them to make things right. And it's on the black conservatives, whether they're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, or got their own .com. It's on them to get us our reparations or else. And speaking of those black conservatives, since it's on them to get it, we need to hear way more talk from them. I need to hear way more talk from them. They flooded the timelines during the election cycle. They flooded the airwaves during the election cycle, telling you don't vote for a Democrat. Why aren't they flooding the timelines now, telling you here's how we're going to get Trump to give us the reparations? When we do not recognize the deep wounds of our collective past, we are doomed to perpetuate a cycle of psychological distress and social disintegration. Dr. Joyce Degree, post-traumatic slave syndrome. There are now some of us, I will say to you this, if you're already on the train to support reparations, then you probably recognize these deep psychological distresses and that you recognize the social disintegration. The mathematicians, the historians, the mathematicians, the accountants, the economists have already looked at all of this stuff. They've already said without reparations, there will be no full-scale rescue or hardly even survival of the black community in the near future. So the writing is on the walls. It's a now or never situation. It's not something that we're supposed to wait till 2028. It's supposed to be something that we're working on now. But y'all don't want to do that. Y'all, these black conservatives, all want to do is just, you want to ignore it or move the goalposts. This is exactly what we see with black conservatives today. They love their chains, as the proverb says. So they fight to keep them, and sometimes they deny that they were ever even there, like Tim Scott. And worse, they try to convince others, just shut up and like it. That's what Steady B said a long time ago. Just shut up and like it. And that's what the black conservatives are telling us. But now let's talk about this whole Trump situation for a second. Y'all swear up and down that Trump was the best president for black people in modern history. I heard them say that. All right, cool. Then why haven't you pushed for him to sign that executive order on reparations? You criticized Biden for not signing an executive order. You criticized Obama for not signing an executive order. And I was right there with you. I criticized them too. But you're not going to criticize Trump? Why not? Trump got more power than Obama or Biden put together. Neither of them had every house of governmental power in the palm of their hands. Only Trump has done that, at least in modern times. So why aren't you pushing for him to sign an executive order on reparations? He signed the Criminal Justice Reform Bill, the First Step Act. Yeah, I know. And shout out to anybody that bill helped. If it brought you home sooner than you were supposed to, or then the courts had allotted for you, I'm happy for you. I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at all. I covered this on an earlier show before. But what we don't know is really what hurts us. What do I mean by that? First and foremost, it's not as though signing that bill made Donald Trump the second coming of Abraham Lincoln. He ain't free us with that bill. Reparations is the bill that would free us, and he ain't did it yet. But I digress. I'm going to share my screen. This is a good time for me to also remind you, if you're on Instagram watching, please come on over to youtube.com/@theproperperspective so you can see these videos and hear the rest of this presentation. So as I venture to share my screen, try to get this up and on. Well, breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. If you were tuned into the hip hop debacle, that is A$AP Rocky's trial, he was just found not guilty of felony assault. So shout out to A$AP Rocky for keeping his freedom, depending on how you feel about A$AP Rocky. Now, with that to the side, let me pull up this screen. Let me unmute the screen. Okay, now we're going to share the screen. Who am I sharing the screen about? A brother named Clay Cane. You may have heard of him. He wrote a book called The Grift. And so I want to pull a section out of this interview that we can talk about. So here we go. Sharing the screen. Here we go.
It's systemic racism.
Insulted me. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. I hate to bring his name into this, but let's talk about Trump. Okay, because he really touts himself as an advocate for Black Americans. He pointed out his African American in the audience one time. And he also, remember his infamous, "What the hell do you have to lose by voting for me as a Black community?" But there is no substance there. And it's all political theater in my view. Can you point to anything that Trump has actually done for the Black community?
Not at all. And listen, here.
Now let's just hold on. Let me. Okay. Now that's just a little funny to me. Like right off the bat, can you point to anything that Trump has done for the Black community? Not at all. Not at all. So that's hilarious to me because again, Black Republicans, they want us to leave the Democratic plantation. They want us to leave the Democratic plantation. And they want us to come on over there. Republicans ain't did nothing. What are we leaving for? If anything, we need to be building our own political party. But I know that's a topic that y'all scared of. That's a topic that y'all don't like and y'all don't believe in. But let me continue with Clay Cane.
Here's
Thank you.
I know.
You know what's
one thing.
interesting?
I know. I know. He's annoyed the hell out of us.
Exactly.
That's the only thing.
And you know what's funny? What a lot of current black Republicans go to, they go to two things: an HBCU bill and the First Step Act. So just not to get all in the weeds, but the HBCU bill was written by a black woman Democrat named Alma Adams.
It was already in play.
Exactly.
That's a very good point, because I've gotten into this conversation before. I did a whole show on it before, and I've gotten into a lot of debates with people who want to pull up this idea that Trump signed or Trump gave more money to HBCUs than any president before. Then when you do the deep dive on this, now the dive that I did was slightly different from his take, but his is a very good point as well. What Clay Cane is saying is, okay, he signed it. We can give him credit for signing it. He didn't write it. It wasn't his brainchild. He didn't think of it. It wasn't an idea of his. He signed it, and he only signed it, my deep dive, he signed it because he wanted to be able to say, I did more than the last N-word. I did more than the last person. Now, yes, it's true that what he signed gave more money to HBCUs than any president before him. But at the deep dive, when you go look at the history, every president that comes into office does the same thing. So when Bill Clinton got into office, he was under the knowledge that George Bush before him had given more money to HBCUs than any president before. So Bill Clinton one-upped him. When Bill Clinton got out of office, who came in next? I can't even remember. But the next president came in and did what? Gave more money than the last president, which meant it was more money than any president in history. It just goes on and on and on. So it's not a real feather in the cap in my mind. If you come in and say, well, the last guy gave $400, and you come and say, I'm gonna give $401, you gave more than the last person. So hey, that ain't saying nothing. But you only know this if you do the deep dive to understand what the real political situation is. But let me continue with Clay Cane.
So they try and give him credit for that. And the First Step Act, which did do some good things, but it had its origins under the 2010 Fair Sentencing Act.
It was already.
Again, I got into all these debates with people before on this issue too. They want to give credit to Trump for the First Step Act. And as I just said, shout out to anybody that the First Step Act helped. I'm not mad at y'all. And I'm not mad that Trump signed it into play. I will say, if he can sign the First Step Act, if he can sign the bill that gave more money to HBCUs, then he can sign a reparations bill. Somebody got to push him. Now, if you're a black conservative, it should be you that pushes him. He would look at somebody like me and say, that person would never had my interest at heart. But he can't say that about a black Republican. Tim Scott on live TV talking about, I love you. So Tim Scott need to be pushing it. We need a Spike Lee style real life drop squad. They need to go pick up Tim Scott, and drop squad him until he realizes and recognizes the truth, and then go knock on Donald Trump's door and say, sign this. But let me go back to Clay Cane.
It was already in.
But here's what's really important. Black issues, even if you want to try to give them credit for that, they go beyond HBCUs and criminal justice.
Yes.
What's your plan for fair housing? What's your plan for fair wages? What's your plan for voting rights, healthcare? And the GOP or Trump don't seem to have a plan for that. So absolutely not. Yeah.
Which might speak to the disillusion of them and what black people are.
Right.
Those are the only areas you're addressing. But
another good point.
Over the past
on the screen though, but another good point. If the only thing that he's willing to do is let a few black people out of jail, give a few black people some opportunities to go to college, okay, that's a good one. But that's the only two things. What is that really saying? It's saying he don't think we got education. He don't think we're smart enough for college. And he think we all are jailbirds. So let me just help the dumb jailbirds so they can get off my back. That's what he's really thinking. That's what's the what's the word that you use like in college when you're writing a paper, they tell you the what lies beneath the surface of the act. They tell you to drill down to see what lies beneath the surface. It behooves you to take a second look. That's what you something like that. So again, what Clay Cane is saying is the grift is really the black people who tell you they on your side, but then they tell you to be mad at people that's on your side. That's a grift. And I ain't talking about professor. So okay, I've gotten rid of the share screen. We're going to put that down. We come back to my tirade on Black MAGA. So for everybody that, see, I want to get those names, and I was told not to use names. But for everybody that got an issue, let me see. Where is no chat? Okay, I see. Let me give a shout out. Babylon Dunn is in the house. Welcome back, brother. Reparations do not work the way y'all think, the way you all think. Ha ha. Okay, I'm gonna share this on the screen. Giving a shout out to Babylon Dunn outside the box. He is now in the chat room. I appreciate your presence. Again, if you're on Instagram, you're not going to be able to see this, but this may become a very spirited conversation. But Babylon Dunn says reparations do not work the way you all think. And he's got a series of emojis that are cute. We might get into this a little bit because I have not outlined what I think reparations is. But he might be right. Maybe most people don't have an idea or don't have a proper understanding. They don't have a proper perspective of what reparations is. So we're going to try to get into this. But let me continue with, for all of the people that got all that smoke against the Democrats, where's that same energy when Democrats put forward a bill that could have actually moved the needle on reparations? And I do really mean move the needle. It's a foregone conclusion that HR 40 is just a study. I'll be the first to tell you I'm tired of hearing about a study. What I won't do is say, because I'm tired of hearing about a study, I'm not going to support this Democratic person who's promoting the study. Not until I find another party that's promoting more than a study. If I shut down to the Democrat that wants to reintroduce HR 40, I better have another option. On the Trump side of things, on the Musk side of things, they only interested in giving reparations to South Africans. That's who they want to give reparations to. They want to take some of that money they've been saving from the Doge shutdowns and send it to the whites in South Africa. They ain't looking at us. But you don't hear the black conservatives talking about that. You don't hear them saying, wait a minute, no, we first. They told us to step on the immigrant toes. They told us to start bogarting against the immigrants. They told us to fight with the black Jamaicans and the black Haitians and the black Nigerians. They didn't tell us to fight with the white Ukrainians who was getting money. It's raining reparations money on the Ukrainians. They ain't tell us to fight them. It's the grift. It's the COINTELPRO. No, instead, black conservatives are too busy clutching their pearls, talking about how reparations is too radical. But y'all don't hesitate to get behind Trump for a bill that only scratches the surface of justice. Because even that First Step Act, like I said, shout out to everybody that came home. But the First Step Act was a watered down bill. And the original bill that was presented by the Democrats would have given 2, if not 3 times as many people an opportunity to come home early. But y'all don't want to talk about that. Y'all only want to talk, okay, you let 5 people go, great, but you still got 150 behind bars. You get the analogy. The other bill would have put 150 of them on the street. But you don't want to talk about that bill. It's not making sense to me. The math ain't mathing. If you're going to talk that talk, you better be ready to walk the walk. Y'all were quick to get, yeah, I shouldn't even say that. Y'all were quick to get him. You lined up and you fought for Kodak Black. He signed that. He gave him a pardon. You ain't standing up for reparations for the whole community, for the whole group, for the whole population. You let Trump give Lil Wayne a photo op and a pat on the back, but you didn't get him to sign nothing for FBA, for ADOS. Where are your priorities? You just chasing your tail. You keep telling us Trump's a businessman. Well, how about we make a deal? Let's make a deal, bro. We can run this whole operation like a deal. Mr. Trump, we got a good business opportunity for you. Let's say we take the billions that you just found in tax cuts, and instead of giving it to the country club crowd, you allocate that money to the people who built this country. How's that for a deal? No, instead, y'all just here talking on Instagram and taking Instagram pictures with red hats like that's going to get us land grants and debt cancellation. Nah, fam. Make it make sense, please. Make it make sense. Now, let me say, hold on. Let me, again, Babylon Dunn with this statement on the screen, reparations do not work the way y'all think. How do they work? That's the question, Babylon Dunn. How do they work? How do you say they work? How do you think they should work? So for all of these people who keep shooting at the Democrats, they got 150 million bullets for the Democrats and they got blank guns for the Republicans. Clay Cane says these figures often ignore the root cause of Black pain, centuries of systemic racism, economic disparity, and historical disenfranchisement. In many ways, they become the tools of a political system that is invested in maintaining the status quo. That's really what they're about. All these Black conservatives, all these, I said I won't go say no names. All these YouTubers and Instagrammers and Facebookers, they got all the smoke. You know what I'm talking about. The leader of the FBAs, the leader of the ADOS, the leader of the Kamala is an Indian brigade. They are really promoting the status quo, running around here wearing White Lives Matter t-shirts. Make it make sense. They promoting the status quo by championing the very system that has oppressed their own communities. They've become pawns in a game where the stakes are their own people's liberation, freedom, and at this point, existence, financial existence. It's becoming an existential threat. They appear on television screens and social media platforms to tell Black people that their struggles are self-inflicted, but they ignore the historical context of how Black Americans were kept out of the political system, were denied resources, and taught to mistrust each other. All along, they trying to get you to dance to the beat of the drum of we want reparations. Now I'm hoping Babylon Dunn say something else, because he said we don't understand how reparations works. Maybe we don't. I would say off top, I think reparations should work for black people the same way they work for the Ashkenazi in Israel. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm incorrect, then show me where how to be correct. I'm not wrong. Not in the sense of if wrong is related to morality, I'm not wrong. I may be incorrect, and you can tell me how. But however reparations works, then what the Ashkenazi got is what we should be getting. So what did the Ashkenazi get? What did the Ashkenazi get? They got land. They got their own government. They got cash payments. And they got financial support from everyone from every country who had a hand in allowing the Nazi regime to inflict the harm that they inflicted upon them. And technically, technically, that's what reparations is. And technically, there's no problem with that as a reparations package. I technically wouldn't even be against those people in that country getting all of what they got, with one exception. They should not have been relocated to where they were relocated. They should have been given territory in the European country in which they lived. That was a German oriented situation. So Germany should have given up some of its land. The same way Russia is fighting to get back the Ukraine, it's because it was land that once was governed by Russia. That just don't mean I'm in favor of, I'm just saying. So however Babylon Dawn says reparations is supposed to work, I'm saying it should work for black people the exact same way it worked for the Ashkenazi over there in the middle of the Middle East. We're supposed to have land. The Republic of New Africa was the movement pushing for us to get the land. We should have some territory. Elijah Muhammad was pushing for us to get the territory. That's part of the reparations package. You get your own geographical territory. Now you can debate, you can negotiate, since Trump likes to make deals. And since Trump wants to run around and say he wants to annex land anyhow, he wants to cut up countries anyhow. Well, charity starts at home. Let him cut up this country first. Why don't you give us what the Republic of New Africa asked for? Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, maybe Oklahoma. But the Republic of New Africa was a campaign and a movement where they said, based on reparations, we want this amount of territory, and we want the same types of financial assistance. So we're going to set up our own country. We're going to set up our own government. The same way Cuba set up its own country and set up its own government. The same way Cuba got assistance from Russia. The same way Israel got assistance from Germany, France, England, Spain, Italy, Portugal. They all give financial and military assistance to Israel. That's reparations. That's what we should be getting. That's the full package of reparations. So I'm not sure what Babylon Dawn was talking about, but I welcome you to come in and educate us. But aside from that, if he's not going to come in, that's fine. I still, like I said, I appreciate your presence. Part 3 of my conversation tonight, Black conservatives. So as you can see, I started with one group. I moved on down to the other. Now I'm on to the Black conservatives. Let's cut the nonsense. If you're black and conservative and you've been out here telling people not to vote for Democrats because they're just running game on reparations, then you need to step up and lead on reparations through your own party. What is your party? Don't just tell me about a problem. Tell me about a solution. If you don't want us to fall for the grift of the Democrats, are you building a party? Now, I had a brother on the other night that's trying to build the hip hop political party. I would appreciate it if y'all look him up. I would appreciate it if y'all look him up. But if you don't want to follow the Democrats and you too scared to pressure the Republicans, then you better start building your own. And you better start doing that now. You got 2 years before there's another election. That's plenty of time to get the ball running. But otherwise, if you're black and conservative, you need to step up and lead in this fight. Otherwise, you're just playing the same game you claim you're exposing. When we fail to address the full scope of the injury, we deny ourselves the right to justice. We deny ourselves the right to justice and healing. Acknowledging the harm and addressing it with reparations is not a favor, it's a responsibility. Now, since y'all are aligned with the party that is in full control, they got all the houses now. The responsibility is on you. The weight of our community is on your shoulders. It's the time is over. It's you can no longer, you should no longer be talking about what Obama did, could have did, should have did, and would have did. You should no longer be talking about what Biden did, could have did, would have did, and should have did. You can't talk about what Kamala did, would have did, could have did, or should have did. They gone. Trump is in office now. So what can Trump do to help black people get that reparations? And what can you as a black conservative do to get your man, to get your president to sign them papers? The Republican Party as a whole, they do whatever that man say. If he tell them jump on the congressional floor, them fools will do it. He told them don't come to work. They didn't come. So you need to get out there and get Trump to sign that paperwork and tell Congress, let's get this platinum plan done. Whatever it was, because it ain't had no details in it. But you told us to trust you. So let's get it going. HR 40 takes too long? Fine. Draft a new bill. That's on y'all. That's on black Republicans. That's on black conservatives. That's on black MAGA. Draft a new bill that goes straight to payments. I don't want to study no more than anybody else. I don't like the delays. The studies have been done. The UN, the United Nations, did a study and said Uncle Sam owes black Americans. California just screwed up, but California has done a study. There's been congressional studies in the past. The studies have been done. The only reason HR 40 keeps talking about, or it begins with the study, is because HR 40 was originally written 30, 40 years ago when there was no studies. So the study needs to be, so the bill needs to be edited, updated, redrafted. But I don't hear no black conservatives saying that. All they saying is don't trust them. No, trust them and rush them. Pressure bust pipes. I say both parties need to be rushed and pressured. But clearly, it's a lot easier to pressure the party who has a bill trying to get on the floor than to pressure a party who ain't wrote jack and who have said they ain't gonna write jack. But y'all say we need to trust them. Make them put it in writing. Make them introduce their own HR bill. HR 414, if you haven't heard that, look it up. Because that's another one. Guess what? Wasn't written by a Republican. wasn't written by a conservative, wasn't written by a MAGA or a black MAGA. Another Democrat wrote a bill. But y'all said don't trust them. Trust you and trust them. Trust the Republicans, trust the conservatives, and they ain't got one lick of legislation, not one page, not one half a page, not a memo. And they ain't even got a sticky note on reparations, except to say vote no. So you can amend any legislation. You can amend it to speed it up. How come y'all ain't talking about that? If you can't do that, COINTELPRO, then all you're doing is complaining without solutions. We don't respect that. We ain't gonna respect that. If y'all really think it's a good thing that Trump won, then now is the time for y'all to push for an executive order. Not us. They're not gonna listen to us. We too liberal. We too progressive. Y'all the conservatives. So y'all should be pushing for him to sign something. If y'all think the GOP is better for Black America, then now is the time to make them prove it. Because all that we off the Democratic plantation talk don't mean nothing if all you're doing is just moving to Mar-a-Lago. Now, again, if you're tuning in, like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate your presence. Thanks for joining in on the chat. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to hit that bell for the notifications for the next time I go live. Don't forget to say something in the comment section. I do have a comment pinned that you're welcome to speak on. But my last part for the night, my closing, no more excuses. The question is, will we continue to tolerate those who cling to their chains and hold the rest of us back? Or will we move forward and demand what we are owed? Now, under the Democratic Party, the people have been demanding. We've been dropping the ball, but we have been demanding. I don't remember the last time I heard a Black Republican demand reparations. I don't remember the last time I heard a Black MAGA, a Black conservative, an anti-Democrat YouTuber demand reparations. All they tell you to do is don't listen to them. A refusal to make reparations and a refusal to demand reparations is a refusal to acknowledge the debt owed, and no amount of political maneuvering will erase that truth. Shout out to Dr. Joyce Degree for that quote. That quote came from Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. And this quote really shifts the weight onto the government, because that's who bears the responsibility. This is something that is owed to Black people by the government. I don't care what anybody says. Well, I don't want my tax. Shut up. Your taxes go wherever the government says they go. You can say what you don't want, and your taxes go to wherever the government says they go. This ain't a conversation for you. You might as well butt out. You didn't want your money going to Ukraine, and they got it anyhow. You didn't want your money going to Israel, and they got it anyhow. So why would we listen? Why should we listen to you? Because you don't want it to go to Black people. You don't want money to go to public schools, and they get it anyhow. It's the government that owes, and it's the government that needs to pay. All I'm saying is, if you're not going to support the Democrats who are at least trying to get it done, then it's on you to force the Republicans to bring forth a bill. At the end of the day, we're about action. If you're serious about reparations, then let's see the receipts. No more excuses. No more, the Democrats are fake, while you sit on your hands. No more, H.R. 40 is just a study bill, unless you're drafting one of your own. No more clapping for budget cuts, unless you're pushing for those savings to be redirected to reparations in one form or another. But we know you ain't gonna do that. No more acting like Trump is Santa Claus, who's just gonna gift us reparations without a push. Neither party's gonna give it without a push. But only one party actually has paperwork on the table for the push. But the ball is in your court, Black MAGA, Black conservatives. Let me shorten it, Black cons. The ball is in your court. If you really want to separate yourself from the liberal talking points, then prove it by delivering something real for Black people. Otherwise, all y'all are doing is talking. And who got time for that? What's the next move might be your question. Well, if y'all serious, let's see some action. Otherwise, sit down and stop blocking the people who are actually doing the work. I shout out to Ayanna Pressley. I shout out to Jamal Bowman. I shout out to Ilhan Omar for signing on to these bills, for reintroducing these bills. But y'all say, don't listen to them, it's a trap. Well, what's the trap of the Republicans? Dr. Joyce DeGree says our ability to survive, because that's what we've been doing for 400 years. Our ability to survive is not a sign of our ability to thrive. The time to survive is over. It is now time to thrive. You cannot thrive without the proper materials. We need the tools and the support to move forward, not just to survive, but to truly heal and prosper as a community. This quote underscores the idea that the time for survival is what? Yesteryear. Now it's time for healing, prosperity, and action. And as the conscious spiritual community would say, it's time for abundance. Now, I got a couple of jokes I might tell. Not really jokes, but I'm trying to see now, is anybody else coming into the chat room? I thought Babylon Don was going to give us his explanation on what reparations is. Let me see. Where is no, I thought I had it up here. Okay, I don't have it up here. So let me just say this. You ever been in a restaurant and you're trying to, you sit down, you're looking over the menu, you ready to order, but it seems like the waiter keep going by, keep passing you by, not paying you attention? Well, on the reparations bill, the Democrats are like the waiter who sees you sitting at the table, starving, got your menu closed because now you're ready. But instead of taking your order, they keep walking past your table, refilling water, wiping counters, talking to other customers, anything but actually serving you. Now, notice I said this is the Democrats. Meanwhile, the Republicans aren't even in the restaurant. They locked the doors, took the food out the back, and told you to go home hungry. And y'all want us to support them. I ain't happy with either of those analogies, but I know one thing for sure. The waiter who's trying to ignore you, oh, you can get his attention and get him to come over and take that order and make sure that the food gets done right. Them folk that left the restaurant with you in it, you ain't getting nothing from them. Okay, now Babylon Don is back. Now, remember, he said reparations do not work the way you all think. He then says the loser pays the winner reparations. Here we go with the trick knowledge again. The loser pays the winner reparations. He says reparations, a levy on a defeated country, forcing it to pay some of the war costs of the winning countries. Reparations were levied on the Central Powers after World War I to compensate the Allies for some of their war costs. Let me give a shout out to Decoding History Podcast is here. Okay, thank you. Let us know where you're tuning in from if you can. But let me going back to this Babylon Dunn. So he's giving us a definition of reparations. Now, before I go too far off, let me see if I can pull up. If I can't challenge him, then maybe he's right. But let me see if I can challenge him. So here we go. Let's see. Where we at? So Babylon Dawn says the loser pays reparations. Okay. Well, if the loser pays reparations, then you tell me why Uncle Sam as the North, who fought against the South broke away from the country. The South broke away from the United States of America and said, we herefore do declare we are our own country, the Southern United States. That's what they called themselves. They say we are now the Southern United States. We're now the Confederate United States. And so there was the war, the Civil War. And after the smoke cleared and the North won, the North, the winners, paid the South money for the slaves. The South said we need to be repaired for our losses. The South were the losers and the North paid. But Babylon Dawn says the loser pays. I'm not saying that the loser doesn't pay. I'm not saying that that is an inaccurate definition. I'm saying that is clearly not the only definition. There's no way it can be the only definition. And Decoding History is chiming in. Thank you for here's another good one. Because during the Haitian Revolution, the Haitians were the winners. The Haitians were the winners, but they had to pay a tax to France. So the loser doesn't always pay. So this is what I'm saying. I'm just one step at a time. Here's what we don't like. We don't like it when people present a definition, and then when you challenge or you correct them on their definition, they go moving the goalpost. Well, what I mean is, what I was trying to say is, hold on. Now, I'm not saying you can't correct yourself. I'm not saying that. I'm saying your first statement is the loser pays the winner reparations. So we're going to clear that up. That is not an absolute guarantee. I'm not saying that you don't have merit in your statement. I'm saying that is not the absolute 100% standard definition of reparations. The North paid reparations to the South. The North were the winners. Haiti paid reparations to France. Haiti were the winners. So the loser does not always pay reparations. So as far as that one statement is concerned, you're just not right. You're not correct. You're not absolute 100% valid. Now, shout out to Decoding History Podcast for giving me that example. Now, and they in here from Atlanta, Georgia, so shout out to that too. Now, Babylon Dawn comes back And he says, so the losing country was levied taxes, as today the losing country is levied tariffs, aka the losing country is levied reparations. Okay, now, again, you still sticking to this losing country narrative. And we both just gave you, Decoding History Podcast and I have just given you clear examples. The North was not the loser, but they paid reparations. Haiti was not the loser, they paid reparations. So the losing country bit is dead. Now, as far as levying taxes, well, Trump is levying taxes on countries there ain't been no war with. Mexico didn't lose a war to America. There ain't been no declared war, at least not in modern times. But he's levying taxes on them. China didn't win any recent war or didn't lose any recent war to America, but he's levying taxes on them. So one, the losing country pays. That's a dead argument. Two, levy taxes on the losing country. That's dead. That doesn't stand. I'm not saying that you don't have a point. I'm saying you're using one definition of reparations and it doesn't apply here. I don't know why you're invested in a definition that doesn't help your people. But again, you haven't been on screen with me. I don't know who you are. I'm just giving you like the respect. And I'm assuming Babylon Dunn outside the box. I'm assuming you were, brother. I'm assuming you black. But you might not be. I don't know. Haiti lost and pays France reparations or protection money. Haiti didn't lose. Haiti didn't lose. I'm sorry. That's just not. Anyhow. Okay, hold on. So again, now I've entertained, I've discussed, I've talked about, I've put your definition, one of your definitions on screen. Now, I'm going to fly on over here to ChatGPT to look up the definition of reparations in legal and international standards. So a legal definition. Reparations refers to compensatory measures taken by a state, institution, or individual responsible for harm aimed at remedying past injustices and restoring victims as much as possible to their original condition. And this is considered a legal definition. Now I'm going to put this on the screen because again, I want you to see, I want you to understand what I'm saying to anybody within earshot. I'm not saying that Babylon Dunn is wrong about his definition. I'm saying Babylon Dunn is using a definition that doesn't apply. Now, you can talk all you want to about, you can argue, you can debate about whether or not Haiti won the war. I think you're dead wrong on that as well. But that definition doesn't apply. The definition of reparations that applies to Black people in America, FBA, ADOS, Friedman, says that reparations refers to compensatory measures. What would those measures be? What would they look like? Compensatory measures would be cash payments, land. It can be some of those other things that are in the HR 40 bill. Free, no taxes, free education. I'm not saying that I'm in favor of those. I'm saying these are things that apply to the definition. These are compensatory measures. You get to make up what you want when you write the legislation. But reparations refers to compensatory measures taken by a state, an institution, or an individual who is responsible for harm aimed at remedying past injustices and restoring victims as much as possible to the original condition. The Asians that got interned, they didn't go by the loser. The loser has to pay. They were the losers. The Asian Americans that were thrown into internment camps, they were the losers. They didn't pay Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam paid them. Under U.S. law, reparations can take the form of financial compensation. That's those cash payments everybody talking about. Policy changes. That's what some of the INCOBRA activists are talking about. Or restorative justice initiatives for groups harmed by state action. That's what some of the DEI people was talking about. The Japanese internment camp survivors received financial reparations under the Civil Liberties Act of 1988. Period. End of story. Again, it's not the loser that pays. It's not the loser that pays. Now, okay, I'm gonna go back to what Babylon Dunn is saying, because he's trying to run with this narrative. Let me give a shout out to someone else who has joined the chat on Instagram. Whoa, you got a long name. I love fanny packs and belt bags. I guess you promoting your own party, your own company or something like that. But shout out to you. Thanks for joining in. So Babylon Dawn says, prominent examples of war reparations include Carthage's indemnity paid to Rome following the First Punic War, French reparations following the Napoleonic Wars, Haiti's reparations to France. Again, I'm trying to tell you, bro, I don't disagree with you that there are examples of varying degrees, styles, and types of reparations. What I'm saying to you is just because Carthage paid reparations to Rome during the First Punic War in one method doesn't mean the United States of America is trapped into doing the same thing. Just because French reparations were paid during the Napoleonic Wars doesn't mean the United States of America has to do it that way. Just because Haiti's reparations, I can't hardly even stomach it to even say it, but Haiti's reparations to France following the Haitian War, French reparations to Germany following the Franco-Prussian War. You can go on and on all day and night about how some countries, some cultures have done reparations. That doesn't remove the fact that America has another set of laws. That doesn't change the fact that the United Nations has another set of laws. One of the reasons that many Republicans themselves have been in favor, a little quietly, but not that quiet, just not that loud, have been talking about removing themselves from the United Nations. They've been talking about getting out of the United Nations. And one of the reasons they want to get out is because the United Nations keeps telling them every year, y'all old black people, when y'all gonna make right by that? Like they don't have the teeth, they don't have the jaws, they don't have the policing power to come in and make Uncle Sam give the payment. But every time it comes up, the United Nations says, call the order. Remember y'all old black people. And so the Republicans are saying, we need to get out of there. We don't need nobody to hear that. So again, I'm gonna go back to Babylon Dawn wants to talk about the history of reparations in other countries. Nobody's talking about the history of reparations. That's great for a class. And I'm all for classes. Trust me and believe. I'm all for that. But I'm talking about the reparations in the United States of America as it pertains to Black Americans who are the descendants of enslaved Africans. And under US law, let me put that on the screen for you. Under U.S. law, reparations can take the form of financial compensation, policy changes, or restorative justice initiatives for groups harmed by state actions. For example, the Japanese internment camp survivors received financial reparations under the Civil Liberties Act of 1988. They didn't walk through the annals of history and discuss what happened during the Punic Wars. Now, to date, the U.S. government has yet to pass a formal reparations policy for African Americans, though the H.R. 40 proposals to study the effects of slavery and racial discrimination, it's the whole reason we're here tonight, folks. It's on the table. It needs to be passed. It's not going to pass as long as we are not sharing and spreading the information on what needs to take place in order for it to pass. Now, the black MAGAs, they just keep telling you, don't trust the Democrat because it's a grift. They're not telling you the Republicans won't vote it into play. It's just like you got a football team. You got your players on the team and you got your players on the bench. Well, HR 40 is a player on the bench. Whether he's good or bad, he's on the bench. He could be the best thing smoking that ever touched the field. He could be the worst thing that ever touched the field. We don't know because he's on the bench. HR 40 is on the bench. When Ayanna Pressley reintroduces it, all that is putting it on the bench. It was in the bleachers with the fans. Now it's on the bench with the team. The coach still got to say when you go into play. The subcommittee in the house is the coach. The player can't touch the field till the coach say, go in and substitute for such and such. I want you to take this position on the field. Well, HR 40 can't go into play until the subcommittee says, go on there on the floor. Once you hit the floor, we all gonna talk about it and we're gonna take a vote. But until the subcommittee says hit the field, it's stuck. It's stuck on the bench. Now, the black MAGAs, the black conservatives, they don't even want to tell you this. That's my problem with them. If you're really trying to lead people, if you're really trying to influence people for their own benefit, then you break down the process and tell them where they need to direct their energy. If you're just trying to get them stirred up so you can get more clicks, more likes, bigger YouTube checks, then you do this circular thinking thing to keep them confused and ignorant of the process. So every time you hear somebody say, well, the Democrats didn't pass it yet, the Republicans won't allow it to come to a vote. I'm going to keep saying that. So again, Babylon Dunn, my brother from another mother. Let us please get off this historical ride about what the Punic War reparations was, about what Napoleon's reparations was. We're talking about Uncle Sam's reparations. And if I go to international law for today, like if you want to have an expanded conversation, we can have an expanded conversation. So let's expand out of the United States and go into international law. Because guess what? That's what Malcolm X was talking about. Malcolm X was talking about having an expanded conversation on reparations. He wanted the UN to speak. He wanted to bring the case of reparations to the United Nations, have them listen to the information, because the study was done back then. And he said, let the United Nations make a decision. If they say we are owed reparations, then they will have the apparatus to tell the United States, y'all got to get this done. So if you want to have an expanded conversation, don't look at 1,000 years ago in Carthage. Look at what the United Nations says. Under international standards, the United Nations and human rights law, they say They have the United Nations basic principles and guidelines on the right to a remedy and reparation as of 2005. Reparations includes five key components: restitution, compensation, rehabilitation, satisfaction, and guarantees of non-repetition. Let me see if I can put those on the screen again. It may not. I don't know if this one's gonna work. It's a mouthful, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, it looked like it might go on the screen, but it's a big one. So again, under international standards, if we want to expand this, under international standards for human rights and human rights law, there are five key components to reparations. So Brother Babylon said, y'all don't understand how reparations work. The United Nations knows. And the United Nations has dealt with reparations way more times and on way more incidents than Uncle Sam has. But they say there are five components to reparations: restitution, returning victims to their original state, i.e., land return and restoring citizenship rights. So that's one we can either fight for, or we can say, well, we don't feel like that's one that we really want to fight about right now. I say we should fight for it. Now, what it means, we may differ on that. But my original state, that means I get citizenship back in Ghana or Burkina Faso or Nigeria or Sierra Leone, or so on and so forth. You see where I'm going with it. But if you don't want to go back that far, because I know the pretendians and the FBAs, they want to act like we just popped up over here, fine. Then the land returned to the Republic of New Africa that campaign was about, all those deep South states where we were in the first place before the Great Migration to the North. Either way, that would be restitution. That's one of the key components of reparations. So that's how it works, Brother Babylon. Compensation, the whole fact that everybody's been talking about cash payments, that's compensation. The Ashkenazi in Israel got it. That's how reparations work. It's not based on all of this, what happened in the Punic Wars. Now Babylon Dunn is coming around. He says reparations, restitution, restoration, and I might add repatriation. I feel you there. Now you're talking. But the third key component is rehabilitation, providing medical, psychological, and social services to victims. Now, if you are familiar with some of the more erudite scholars in the Black community who have delved into the psychology, they have plainly laid out a case that there are psychological traumas. And guess what? Dr. DeGruy, post-traumatic slave syndrome is an expose in what? The psychological drama, trauma, and stress that is still with us today, whether we like it or not, whether we want to admit it or not. You know, it's okay to be in self-denial. We get it. It's hard to deal with. But just like you can have diabetes and be in self-denial and sit there and suck down Snickers bars, you can be suffering from post-traumatic slave syndrome and be in denial. Just like you can have high blood pressure and throw salt on everything because you're in denial, you can be suffering from post-traumatic slave syndrome and be in denial. And Decoding History podcast says, don't forget, America held on to slavery the longest. Some can easily argue that they still holding on to it. Because if you are familiar with, if you are paying attention, then you saw that documentary from, I believe it was Ava DuVernay. I'm sorry if I messed up her name. 13. And it's not like it really should have even taken that documentary for us to realize it, because it's written plain as day in the Constitution. But it took that documentary for a lot of us to wake up and recognize and realize. So all the talk about prison, school to prison pipeline, all of that is attached to maintaining slavery today, the 13th Amendment. Y'all free as long as you don't break any laws. And if you break a law, we have the right to re-enslave you. So not only did America hold on to slavery for the longest in official, obvious, blatant forms, they still holding on to it today. So restitution, compensation, rehabilitation, satisfaction. What does that mean? Acknowledgement of wrongdoing. They won't even do that. There's been Democratic representatives, no Republican has. There's been no conservative. There's been no black MAGA to do this. There have been Democrats to say, we want a resolution on the floor to recognize the wrongs that slavery occurred. Republicans have said, nah, we ain't gonna do that. So satisfaction is another key component that the United Nations says, if you're dealing with reparations, you got to do this part. Now, remember, the United Nations said Uncle Sam owes black people reparations. So when they say it, they're not even talking about the US version. They're talking about their version. They're talking about these 5 key components: acknowledgement of the wrongdoing, official apologies, public memorials. So even down here in Richmond, Virginia, there's a couple of Democrat, not Republican representatives who are working to get a public memorial about slavery erected in the city. And guess who's pushing back the hardest? And historical corrections. So satisfaction is acknowledgement of the wrongdoing, official apologies, public memorials, and historical corrections. You got Ron DeSantis down there in Florida trying to delete everything about Black history. But reparations is about making the corrections, not deletions. And 5, and this is the one that scares them the most, guarantees of non-repetition. Why are they so scared of that? They got to go back into the 13th Amendment and fix that amendment if we do the United Nations version of reparations. Guarantees of non-repetition, legal and institutional reforms to prevent future injustices. What does that mean? DEI, more spirited, more specific, more aggressive DEI, more targeted DEI, so that only Black people can benefit from it. Policy changes and education reforms. That's what it means. Shout out to Jess B. Fletcher, who is joined on Instagram. So these 5 key components of reparations comes from the United Nations. Now, all countries of the modern world consider themselves members of the United Nations. And the deal is, if you're a member of the United Nations, you're supposed to abide by the rules of the United Nations. So I'm all for us picking up the baton where Malcolm X unfortunately dropped it when they assassinated him. And let's bypass Uncle Sam and roll on over to the United Nations and get them to demand the reparations that we are owed. We get more with them than we do with Uncle Sam. So let me see. Babylon Dawn comes back with modern reparations. Reparations are now also used to compensate victims of human rights violations. This is true. And this is why I'm saying we should be using the Malcolm X strategy. Why? Because Malcolm X said, we don't need to be fighting for civil rights. We need to be fighting for human rights. Everything that has happened to us was a human rights violation. Slavery in and of itself, chattelization slavery. The ways, means, and methods that they used against us are human rights violations. That's why he was going to the United Nations. That's why he said, I don't have time to talk to Uncle Sam. I don't have time to talk to whichever mouthpiece is in the White House today. I want to talk to the big boys. Because what happened to us were acts against human rights. Now, Babylon Dawn says the United Nations has secured the right. Oh, I already said that. You see, reparations and the duty of the responsible party. Oh, that is a new statement. The United Nations has secured the right of victims to receive reparations and the duty of the responsible parties to provide them. That's precisely my point. That's how the Ashkenazi got it. Germany didn't give reparations out of the goodness of their hearts. France doesn't give reparations to Israel out of the goodness of their heart. America isn't sending all that money over there out of the goodness of their heart. They all were told by the United Nations, here's how much responsibility you bear on what happened over there. So here's how much you're gonna pay. And the United Nations has already told Uncle Sam, here's how much of a responsibility you bear to what happened to Black people in your country. And the only reason we haven't gotten it is because we keep talking to Uncle Sam. So again, if you're a Black MAGA, if you're a Black conservative, how come you're not bigging up Malcolm X's strategy? If you're so concerned, if you're so full of, sick and tired of the Democrats, then why aren't you saying, don't listen to the Democrats, we going to the United Nations? So you won't press the Republicans to give us reparations. You won't chart a new path to give us reparations. You won't pick up an old ancestor's path towards reparations. So do you really want reparations? Or do you just like getting people riled up? Hold on. So Babylon Dawn says, notice the word or adjective modern reparations, modern world. Maybe I don't know what you mean by that, but I'm the one that told you stop looking at, don't tell me about the Punic Wars in Carthage. Reparations are now in modern times used for human rights violations. The winner determines what the loser pays or gets paid. Again, clearly, Babylon Dawn is really just trying to tell us not to fight for reparations, not to demand reparations, not to ask for reparations. That's his wisdom. That's his wisdom of the day. Like I said earlier, if you don't believe in reparations, that's fine. You don't have to believe in reparations. I'm not mad at you if you don't believe in reparations. Now, where I will be mad at you with is just like religion. You don't have to believe in reparations, but you ain't gonna trick me into not believing them. Just like you can be an atheist, but you're not gonna trick me into not believing in a higher being. You don't have to support the reparations movement. But as I said earlier, if you don't support it, then okay, be quiet and get out the way. Trying to tell us that it doesn't exist, it doesn't work. You don't work. That's not the right move. So again, you know, the bulk of this program, let me see if I can find. Now I might go ahead. If somebody else wants to join the live, I'll put the link in the chat. Again, thank you for tuning in on Instagram. Shout out to Decoding History podcast, who says, quite frankly, working to pay bills until you die is modern day slavery. Now I agree. I 100% agree. If you're tuning in on Instagram or Facebook It's not too late to come on over to youtube.com/@theproperperspective so you can catch all these jewels that's being flashed on the screen. So Babylon Dunn says, so the definition of reparations has changed in modern times from old times. Okay, again, like you're making a horrible argument, only in the sense that your argument, is simply you're ignoring the whole point. Like, I'll say it this way. Almost every word in the dictionary has multiple definitions. No one necessarily has the right to say, only this definition is accurate. If there are multiple definitions, people have a right to use whichever definition fits their circumstances. Okay, now, I'm not angry. Well, okay, if I'm coming off angry, let me just calm down. That's just my personality. I'm really not angry. He says, you are angry and you are trying to insult, so I will listen. Okay, that's cool. Because I'm not trying to insult. I'm having an issue with your insistence on using a definition that doesn't apply. Like I said, with dictionaries, almost every word in the dictionary has multiple definitions. So why would you say, well, I can only use A? If A doesn't fit, but B does, then you use B. If B doesn't fit, but C does, then you use C. So if I'm saying, I'm not disagreeing with you, Babylon, when you say there are other definitions. I'm simply saying we've got a definition under the United Nations that applies to Black America. We've got a definition under Uncle Sam under the U.S. government today that applies to Black Americans. So why talk about a definition that doesn't apply? Now, Decoding History Podcast says we don't need them to teach our history. I don't know if I agree or disagree with that. I mean, no, we don't need them to teach our history. I'm not necessarily sure where you're going with it. We don't need them to teach our history. We need to be in control of our own schools, and we need to write our own curriculums so that we can teach our own history. But I would agree, yeah, we don't need them to teach our history. If we needed them, we'd be SOL, because they're clearly not going to do it. They haven't done it right correctly since curriculums were invented. And as of late, they've been trying to shut it down anyhow. If we were really relying on them, we are really SOL. Ron DeSantis Satan down there in Florida is really getting rid of a Black history curriculum completely. But we need to be in control of those schools that are in our neighborhoods and service our community. We pay taxes. Those tax dollars go to those schools. We need to be in control of those schools. We need to have way more influence into who writes the curriculum, what's in the curriculum, what textbooks get purchased, who wrote those textbooks, what's in those textbooks. But that might even be me going too far down another road, because that's not Black MAGA, I don't think, anyhow. But I agree with you, Decoding History Podcast. We don't need them to teach our history. And again, I shout out and apologize to Babylon Dunn if I'm coming off angry. I'm just getting heated. That's all. I'm just getting excited. That's all. But again, we got an American definition of reparations. We got a United Nations definition of reparations. That's all we need. That's A and B. I'm not saying that your definitions are incorrect. I'm saying they don't apply. They just don't apply. So Babylon Don says, I'm saying that unless you all see and or know what you all are doing, then asking or seeking for reparations is futile. Unless you all see and or know what you all are doing. Okay, well, part of why I'm talking about this is I want us all to see and know what we should be doing in seeking reparations. We should all be supporting the Democrat that introduces a bill. If ever a day comes when a Republican introduces a bill, if it's a bill for reparations for Black people in America, not whites in South Africa, we should be supporting it. And short of those two steps, we should be building our own political party. And at the top of our political agenda is reparations for Black Americans. And we should all be supporting organizations like NCOBRA and organizations like, I believe it's the Coalition of, what is it? The Coalition for Reparations. CORE, I think it is, the Coalition of Reparations. So we should all be supporting that organization. Now, I'll wait a second to see if the brother gonna say something else. I have I got the link in the chat. If anybody wants to come on, that's fine with me. Let's see where we at. Where are we? I don't know where we at. It has escaped me. I'm calming down, so to speak. Okay, so like I said, if anybody else wants to join, if anybody else has anything else to add, then you can feel free to drop a comment. I'll give you a shout out. If you want to sell something, I'll give you a shout out. But again, what we've been talking about today is Black MAGA, Black conservatives faking the funk on reparations. Babylon Don says, Sankofa, go back and get it. Yeah, I talked about that yesterday or the other day. If you do not know history of reparations, then the history of no reparations will repeat itself. I know the history of reparations in America. I know the history of reparations with Germany, France, Spain, Portugal, England, with the Ashkenazi over there in the Middle East and that stolen land that they took from people. And I'm convinced that in this day and age, those are the two most important elements, factors, and segments that are needed for reparations. Because you can't tell me that knowledge of Carthage would have the subcommittee allow HR 40 to come to the floor for a vote. The study would have been already conducted under the House if the Republicans who run the subcommittee would have allowed it to come to a vote. They could have did that when Obama was in office and had control. They could have did that when Biden was in office and had control. They could do it right now since they control every house of power in this country. And you cannot convince me that just because people don't know about Carthage, they can't let that vote come to the floor. So again, like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, Black people, Africans, FBA, ADOS, freedmen, whatever you call yourself, pretendians or Indians or Black Cherokees or whatever it is. Like, share, and subscribe. I want us to win. I want us to get this reparations check. I want us to get the cash payments. I want us to get the land. I want us to get the acknowledgement. I want us to get the guarantees of non-repetition. I want the whole kit and caboodle. I would think you do too. But that notwithstanding, if you want to chime in on the pinned comment, feel free to do so. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hit the like button. Hit the bell for notifications. How Willie D said, smash up the likes, family. Smash up the likes. That's what I want you to do. Smash up the likes. Hit the like button for me. Leave some comments. Shout out to everybody that joined me on Instagram. Shout out if you're watching on Facebook. Shout out if you're watching on YouTube or if you've joined the YouTube chat. Here we go. War reparations. Babylon Dawn says war reparations today, present, now, in modern times are so-called veteran reparations. History shows Black people are owed reparations for fighting in wars. See Sherman, 40 Acres and a Mule. History shows Black people are owed reparations for fighting in wars. Okay. As far as I'm concerned, that's a second set of reparations. Yes, history shows that Black people are owed reparations for fighting in wars. That's true. I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. But the 40 Acres and a Mule is what got this whole thing started in the first place. Because technically they started giving it to us, and then I forget the name of the president. I do believe it was a Republican, but I'm not going to stand on a hill I'm not going down a hill on that. But the president that came in after the reparations program began, he came in and said, "Oh, hell no," and he shut that down. So again, the fact that it got started based on votes, and you're not going to tell me that everybody back then when it got started knew about Carthage and the Punic Wars and Napoleon. No, it got started because they knew this was the right thing to do. It was ended because a deep South Southern former slave master or former plantation owner didn't like what was going on. So again, it got started. If you want to talk about history, it got started. It was shut down after it got started. Just like Reconstruction, it got started. So this history of war reparations, I'm all for knowledge. I'm a history buff, so I'm all for knowledge, but I make sure that I apply my knowledge in the appropriate, applicable area. Babylon Dawn says, so now war reparations are relevant? Exactly. 40 Acres and a Mule started reparations, as history shows. Okay. War reparations, again, Carthage, Punic Wars are not relevant. I don't agree with you that the 40 Acres and a Mule was just a war thing. But I'll give you that. Let's say it was just a war thing. It was reparations. It was written into law. It was written into this is what we're going to do. None of them people knew anything about. There was no conversation. There was no discussion. There was no standard criteria. Do you know about Carthage? Do you know about the Punic Wars? Do you know about Napoleon? So all of that still sits in the irrelevant category. What's relevant is they started it. The wrong president came into office and ended it. That's what's relevant. Now, like I said, I'm going to get ready to get up out of here, ladies and gentlemen. I think, anyhow. I kind of segued, I sidetracked off of my final call to action. But let me just say this. If y'all agree with this message, share it, please. Tag every Black Republican influencer you possibly can. Tag every Black MAGA leader you can think of. Tag every conservative podcaster. Because if they're serious about reparations, we need to see some real energy behind it. No more excuses. Can we please get to work? I thought I had a dramatic ending. But again, let me see. Let me share my screen. And so I'm going to get ready to get up out of here. Unless anybody else has anything they want to say. I appreciate you guys for listening, for joining in, for leaving comments, for talking, discussing, for going back and forth. Again, if I got too heated, blame it on my heart and not my mind. It wasn't the intent. I'm going to leave. Let me see. What's the last comment I'm going to put on the screen? The last comment I'm going to put on the screen is nah, not that one. Well, it was. I wanted to lead with the definition. Is that it? Yes, the 5 key elements. I'm going to leave with the 5 key elements on the screen. Let me see. Somebody's sending me a message somewhere. Can't see it, so we're going to skip it. Sorry about that. But you got to send it so I can see it. And I'm going to float on up out of here. Once again, I thank everybody for showing up, for tuning in. What I'm going to do now is float on out of here with the theme song.
Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection, and whose mouth is mumbling, trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection, and whose mouth is mumbling, trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. Break it down with the proper perspective.